Okay, we should be live. It's great to see everybody.
Hold on. Wait, where'd your channel go?
It should be on.
I'm checking.
I can see.
There we go.
Yeah, I can see a time to read. Stephanie, Leo. We got Danielle. We got Introverted Black Girl. We got Alicia, Pretty Brown Eye Reader. We got Kay in the house. We got Hardcover Hearts. Okay, so everybody's here.
Why is this not giving me the option to share? We about to fight YouTube. Oh, there we go. I got
happy to see everybody here. We're going to start talking about the book. Wait, just 1 second.
We're getting everything together.
Yeah. Before we get started. Okay. All right. So we're going to start talking about the book. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their afternoon to join Tatiana and Michael and I to discuss this book, which, my God, has been a great experience this month of July. It's just been freaking fantastic. We've loved reading it. I love seeing everybody's responses while they were reading it. And I just feel like, yeah, we need to do this again in October for Read So Lit.
Black History Month.
Yes.
So that'll be our read-along. I haven't decided what we're going to read yet because I need time to research. But on to Kintu. So, what did y'all think, Michael?
Overall, I really liked it.
Have you read anything like this before?
And no. Probably not in the similar way that it's just like this big, huge family epic. I mean, I've read books like that, but this felt really different from anything I've ever read before.
Yeah, because I have to say, for me, it's the same, because I think the only one that I can think of multi-generational that is like forefront in my mind is Some Sing, Some Cry. But it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. There's something, I think because Jennifer Makumbi manages to put a real Ugandan feel to the book. There's enough humor and seriousness and magic and just so many things that incorporate the Ugandan culture that is put into the book that makes it very special compared to other multi-generational stories that we're all used to reading, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that aspect of just Uganda culture as being literally, it's so much like it is Uganda. I think I've never even read a book from Uganda before. Not that I can recall.
Neither do I. It's my first one.
She has a short story collection, so
I have it.
I'm really interested into that. So
I'm going to be reading that in August, because as soon as I saw it, I had to pick it up. And she also has another one coming out in October, I think, or
she has.
Yeah, October. It's
I think it's a full-on novel. I think
it's a full novel.
October release is a full one.
Yeah. Okay, what about you, Tatiana? What did you think?
I feel like I'm going to be smiling this entire time. This was my second time reading it. I loved it. I loved it even more this time than I loved it the first time, and because I got to read my own copy, I got to make tabs. I don't even know if you all can see that. I need to adjust my light, but I absolutely loved it. And I have read a few multi-generational. I say a few off the top of my head. I think I can pull out two out of my mind immediately. Multi-generational stories, family sagas, but again, like you said, they are not the same. This is so hard hitting, and I feel like it's laid bare. Like it's a family saga without attempting to make anybody a good character or a better character, put them in a positive light. And that's one of the things that I love about
I think that's the most realistic way to write something like that. Like if you go into it thinking like you're going to make some people good people and some people bad people, then that's not very realistic. It's in every family, people can do good things and bad things. You know, so, and I think that is something that she does really well. She has a real sense of, you know, not trying to falsify something. You know, she does it, and it comes off naturally realistic. Whether you like some of the characters or not. Some of them can make you shake your head with a side eye a little bit. Like, let me see if I can remember who and who now. I think it's Isaac when he starts dating.
Oh yes.
What's her name?
I'm not.
There's so many characters.
Wait.
Yes.
When
is it Kaya?
Not
she was the family friend.
Is that how it's pronounced? How her name's pronounced?
No,
like when he was like
Nyaga.
Trying to get her drunk at the bar.
Jesus.
Then that didn't work. He said, "Oh well, let me take you home." Then he goes, "Wait, let me swing by my place." And then she says, "I got my purse."
What's beautiful to me about that entire story of Isaac, and I think Nyaga. Isaac and Nyaga, is that Isaac had this like idea of how he was going to manipulate Nyaga. And he was Nyaga's mark.
Yeah.
Like Nyaga and her sister had a whole like prostitute situation going on. He was her mark. Exactly. And he never knew that he was her mark. So he never thought for any time whatsoever that if she had AIDS, she could have contracted AIDS her damn self. His thought immediately was because he screwed all these people and she was so virtuous. So I was like, both of y'all was running game on each other. I had no idea.
I was doing the same thing. I was like, here he is, and then there she is with this pulling out this big knife out of her purse. I was cracking up laughing during those scenes because it was just so funny that they were both trying to play each other.
Mm-hmm.
Playing him more than he was actually playing her.
More than he was playing her. Yeah, and when he thought she was getting tipsy, she was fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was quite good. I have to admit that was quite good. But see, that's what I liked about the book was the element of laughter, you know, the funny bits.
And I think I missed that the first time I read it.
I could see that, yeah. Because
I think I missed that the first time I read it because I was so ready for Isaac to be the bad person in that situation. I think I just totally allowed myself to not understand that he was a mark.
Set up for us to believe that he's going to be the bad person because she makes him physically ugly. The way he's described, everything just falls into place for us to think of him as the one that's the bad person. Mm-hmm. And then when we actually see, we're just like, oh crap. So I thought
this is how it really went down.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. All right, okay. So as we read through the story, what we notice is when in each book there's a prime theme that is being treated, with the idea that when we get to the end of the book, it's like we're going to come full circle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just talk about, you know, book by book in general, so that we can kind of work our way through. So the first one was book 1, which is, you know, the beginning of everything was this Kintu Kidda.
Do you want to talk about the prologue a little bit? because
the introduction, yeah,
because I think what makes the prologue great is that the end, because I was like, wait, the end, the homecoming section really puts the prologue into perspective, because I was like, who are these people? Because when you're first starting off, but then I was like, because now I'm thinking it has this Ouroboros type of like structure on the way that it's telling the story of this like one huge circle of like storytelling, which I think it's always cool.
Also, I would love to be Kusi just for the fact of getting revenge on my brother getting killed in that manner. Like Kusi is my goal.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that on the internet, but Kusi is my goal in life.
Because
I shouldn't say that on the internet, but
bomb. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the number one, the description, colonialism is like talked about or shared, not explicit, like not boom in your face until we get to Maisi. But in each book, it does play a role, and the description of Boise, I'm gonna butcher names this whole situation.
Just go for it.
Yeah, but the way the description of Boise and how it became, how the Black people moved up the hill. You know what it reminded me of? What is the book in? Is it Sula by Toni Morrison that starts with talking about the bottom?
Yeah, I think
that's so. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
The description of the bottom and how the bottom was originally populated by white folk, and then the white folk moved out, and in this case, the colonizers moved out, and so the Black people who were living at the bottom of the hill in the swamps moved up the hill, and how that area is shaped up. And Kay actually shared some pictures on her IG of current day Boise and how it's still like it's got that swampy look to it with the water, the streets in water and everything. And just Pokamu, he would still be alive if he didn't say thief. Like if he had said, "Why are you handcuffing me like I'm a criminal?" He would still be alive. But because he said thief, the whole, without knowing anything, complete mob mentality, vigilante justice killed him.
Yeah. And it's funny because that kind of thing I've read in other African novels where a person is plucked up and then mob mentality, the person is literally mobbed before they can even get them to the police station. I've read this in other African novels. So this must be something that maybe is a common occurrence. I want to think.
That's what I'm thinking, because also what I do know, like I've read in other African novels written by Africans, is that there is a sentiment of distrust between, which ain't that much different for the US these days, between Africans and the police, and the ability, like in some books, they've bribed the police to be able to get through. It's like they're stopping you, but you haven't done anything wrong. If you give them some money, they'll leave you alone. Absolutely. And so it's the mindset of the people who live in that village that if this man is a thief, he's just going to be out on the street in a couple of days, like when white folk kill Black people in the States. And so we have to take our own justice, and the counselors just wash their hands of it. So we think,
it's not me.
So they think, hello, Pussy, and walk away and leave. As I really paid attention to the dates this time, all I could think is Pokamu. He was on the ground for a whole day dead, and then he was in the morgue for 12 days.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because the prologue is basically.
Leo said that was horrible, the murder at the start, but a gripping start. Because it's like a seriously, like she gets your attention like right away with this. Like,
it's attention grabbing. Go ahead, Michael.
Each book starts off with Kamu, essentially.
Yes. Each book begins on January 5th, 2004.
2004, exactly.
Each book begins on January 5th, 2004. And the introduction of Kamu and Kamu's death or murder helps to bring in very easily, like you, even if you don't know, like the first time I read it, I didn't know that there was a connection to with this curse with the head. But the development of it, like,
in the head.
Yeah, but over the centuries it developed. It wasn't just hitting them in the head. It was, we have mental issues. There are mental issues. There are, you have they're hearing voices, or they're seeing things, or they have migraines. So, but we start the book with the reversion to the original. The aversion to the original death.
And having it alter slightly.
Yeah,
about that is this idea that it's very distinct in the beginning. Oh no, don't punish the kids by hitting them in the head, you know, because they remember the curse. And then as we get a bit further on, I guess midway on, then it's mental issues. It just sort of shifted, which is, I think, a lot happens in families. You know, stories get altered.
Yes, stories get altered because when you get to the end of the freaking story, where is Barbirie? Barbirie is nowhere in the history of the family. Nikado had all of the twins. No, Nikado had one kid.
One child.
She got the short end of every stick that's ever been
stuck. Well, that's the first thing in book one, is this whole thing with the twins. With Kintu wanting to marry one, but
the younger,
she had to take both of them. He's like, I don't want her. I just want this one.
And that's another biblical reference too. With
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, Rebecca. Why is Rebecca the only one whose name I can remember?
Sarah?
Oh my gosh.
Sarah?
Isaac, Rebecca,
no,
or Jacob marrying Rebecca. Somebody in the chat.
Yeah, somebody who's good with their religious, you know.
I'm good, but it's Rebecca is one sister. Leah and Rachel. Leah and Rachel. I don't know why Rebecca was sticking out to me. But Jacob wanted to marry the younger. And so the father said, if you work my fields for 7 years, you can marry whichever of Leah and Rachel was young. I think Leah was the younger. And when he does his 7 years of service, they're like, oh no, you got to marry the oldest one first. So you marry the oldest one to get 7 more years, and then you can have Leah. So that's yes, Cynthia, like Water for Chocolate has the same type of thing too. So it's like, that's another biblical reference.
Very common, a common cultural thing. So the fact that he tries to get away with not marrying the second one, but then actually eventually comes to a coming to Jesus, because the one he loved was not able to produce anything in the beginning.
Right. So but then it's like, take the older one so that you can stick her and get babies.
I like the fact that the twins are considered to be the same. They kept saying, but why won't you marry her? They're the same. They're one and the same.
But they're that, and I think that's the America in me. That bothers the shit out of me. They're not the same. It's like this whole idea of siblings sharing penis. No.
Yeah, this is the thing. And it's like they kept saying, but they're one and the same. You can't marry one without the other. One and the same. Now, when they say one and the same, it's not even like I don't even think they mean it in the sense like it's one half of the other half. Like it's one and the same. That's what they keep saying.
And that's like the culture. It's not even them saying, it's not even them saying that I just read Alicia's statement, because twin males weren't expected to marry the same woman. No, but if a woman married a brother and the brother died, in the Bible, I don't know how prevalent this is in African history, but in the Bible, the expectation was that his brother would take up the mantle and marry his brother's wife. So
but that's very similar in African culture as well, though. I think.
See, I didn't know that, but
I think it's very similar.
It makes sense, because that's a whole nother discussion.
They have, girl, read, stay with me, and then we'll talk. Okay.
That's actually on my list to read. I'm not going to get to it in August, but it's on my list.
anyway, so I think that might be something that is a similar kind of idea with the culture. But anyway, so the first time we see this issue with the twins is in book 1. And of course, the theme of the twins being one and the same and all that continues on in almost each book. And we see how, well, it does some destruction.
And it does destruction to their relationship, because Nakado was always ready to step back for Babirye to have her time with Kintu, for Babirye to have, to have the babies, wean the babies. But the moment Nakado had Bail, there was an issue between Babirye's treatment of Bail. Like, you got 50 children, because you had a whole bunch, like, you were wide open. You had a whole bunch of twins, and your sister has one kid, and all of these kids that you have, now you have a separation. Now you have a problem with the fact that she has her one kid, and you're surprised because Kintu never wanted to marry you in the first place.
No,
never. Surprised that Kintu favors Bail, and that Bail would be the heir, because Bail is the descendant of his first wife. And because of that, Babirye starts to treat Nakado differently. Whereas Nakado has always respected and given Babirye her room.
Now let's talk about the idea of the strength of the patriarchy, and how I didn't feel one freaking inkling of anything for Kintu. Like, when he couldn't have sex with all his wives, and he was just, oh, woe is me. They're exhausting me, all these bitches. Okay. I was just like, oh, woe is you. Let me get the violins out. Okay?
But Cynthia said something.
That was the funniest for me.
Yes, Cynthia said something on her IG stories, and it's actually mentioned in the introduction too, about it's like it shows you what the work of the patriarch, how patriarchy works, but how it also doesn't benefit the man. It doesn't benefit the male, and patriarchy doesn't really benefit the man, because you have all of these responsibilities and they are tiring and taxing. But also, in looking at that, the bachelor party for Bail and
I'm not gonna lie, I love that.
You got go to the wife that you love last. You need to hit the ugly old one first.
Yeah.
Then come make your way up, because by the time you get to the one you love, you'll be tired, but you'll be really happy to see her, so you can still get it up for her. If you start there, by the time you get to the old ugly one at the end of the line, you're gonna be wiped the hell out, and you won't be able to get it up. And that's gonna give you a bad reputation as a man.
That killed me. It had me laughing my ass off.
It was absolutely
because I was
hilarious.
thinking, oh my god. Like, somebody wrote in the comment section, yeah, Kintu had about 99 problems.
And also,
but anyway,
the history
so that showed the pressure of patriarchy, of the man to perform and to have a certain amount of wealth, a certain amount of wives. There's a lot of duty, and then you got to watch your back. Gotta watch your back, because you don't know who come in to stab you in the back. Okay, so we see that the patriarchy is challenging, but yet at the same time we see for the women, it's no fun either. Right. There's a lot that's expected, a lot of things that have to be done in a certain way, and it's a lot.
I think that's really shown when Wisa's husband comes to see her, and the difference that Ruth experiences in Wisa when her husband comes to see her versus how she is the rest of the 7 or 8 months that Wisa's, well, no, she's there for like probably 12. That Wisa's there while she's not. Ruth is there when she's pregnant and after she has Paolo, because there's a lot of work that before the husband was coming, we used to put all that work into feeding the kids, and yes, y'all go out and do this. I'm gonna go take care of Ruth, and I'm going to help her with the baby. And then when the husband comes, Brisa disappears, and Brisa's out in the fields, and she's pulling everything together, and then she's cooking everything. Like you have your as someone who wasn't, or even I guess it doesn't matter if you're the first wife or not, because he's spending time with each of them. So you have a different lifestyle. Yeah,
he has to visit
a different lifestyle when he's there versus when he's not there.
And he's meant to perform with all of them. So,
and that the theme of like the patriarchy, I forgot which character it is because now I'm starting to get mixed up, but it felt as though they weren't straight. I forgot who
is this
it was.
one of the stories in the during the bachelor party?
I think so.
With the husband that would, like the aunt came in to see if they had done the do, and no do had been done.
Yeah,
so she got him up and was gonna force him to do the do, and then he vomited on his life. But I like the way that, because Belle asks, well, what happened? Why couldn't this happen? And there's a discussion that he may have been asexual. He may have had, these other differences, and it's just listed as these are some of the things that could have happened. Not that they're wrong, not that there's a way to necessarily fix them, but this is the situation that may have been, and they came to. But I
think isn't it in book 1 where somebody mentions that, something like that? They say,
it's during the bachelor party.
I forgot because there's so many characters during that part.
So there's like this kind of fluidity there. Sexual fluidity going on there. Okay, let's go to book 2 now. Book 2 was Subi.
Oh,
I love Subi.
Lord, Subi.
I love, of the characters, Subi may have been my favorite because she's the only female that's featured. But Subi was my favorite of all the characters, even with all her problems. Because she was from birth, she was the underdog, and like she was never accepted where she was. They didn't expect her to live.
And she did live. Abandoned. Then she was like traipsing from one little poorhouse to the next.
She gets kidnapped. Then she's too old to go into the selling trade.
She had malaria at one point.
Yes, she had malaria, and that's when she was living with the family who, like, in her mind, it's her having her. No, Subi was book 2. Subi is Kintu. Hi, Dominique. First of all, hey, Subi is the Kintu descendant who is book 2. Subi Nakintu. She's the one who had. She was the one who was skinny, and what got me was when she's older and she's at her apartment with Appalat, and the description of her getting out of the shower and the water collecting in her
in her
belly. And I was like, oh my god, like,
girl, I could imagine that the way it was described.
I can't either, but she's so set up. Her aunt didn't want her. Her aunt didn't give a damn about her. Sometimes that child ain't come home, and her aunt didn't care. She locked her out of the house. Her aunt was still living. Her aunt was horrible.
She was horrible, that lady.
Book 2 is also where, like writing wise, I think it's where she puts the most to descriptions. Like, I have a lot of tabs here where she's like describing. Oh God, the part where she's describing the rats. I said no.
Oh my God, I know.
Okay, so Noria told me a story about rats in Nigeria at her college, and I will share that with you all later. But this time reading it, the first time I read it, I didn't have that reference, but I laughed so hard after having heard that story from Noria.
Curl up. I was like, ooh, child.
But they gave her a pedicure. They gave her. She got a free pedicure.
This is not Snow White. This is not the same.
Pedicure, honey.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I have too many stories with rats, and I was just like, I can't do. I was like, this is too much. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Funny was every time they described a woman's body, it was always describing her round, high bottom. That was always
whose?
Her the round butt, high round
of her mom.
All of the women had the most.
No, the one with the round high butt was Isaac's mom.
That was Isaac's mom, but it's always somebody's mom or somebody's daughter has a round high butt.
That was Isaac's mom because the teacher.
Not the only one with a round high butt. There's a lot of round high butts in this book.
Well, that's the only one where it stuck out to me. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
That's the only one where it stood out to me.
There was a lot of them in here, but I thought that was good because that just shows when she hits you with a hard one, she softens you up with some humor, or she softens you up with some kind of something that's sexual or something, so that you're not just being clunk, clunk, clunk like this on the head with, really horrible things happening to people. Although Subi, I mean, nobody has that much bad luck.
No, Subi is in the somebody asked if Subi was leaving the morgue at the beginning of her story. No, we go back. Every story in this book starts with Kamu and then Kamu in the morgue. Subi's in the city and she bogarts her way onto a taxi to get her ass home. But she's in the middle of the city. She's not at the morgue.
Okay, so let's go to book 3. Book 3 is Kanani.
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat.
The rats creep me out.
No, people, C.S. Dugas said people pay good money for fish to nibble their feet. She got it from
Oh, God, yeah, no, ew.
Book 3 is Kanani.
Is it Chinani or Kanani?
I don't know. We're going to ask. I'm thinking it's Kanani because. Oh, I was like, huh? Yeah. I think it's a hard K because remember when the Anglicans converted the name, they converted it to Canaan. So I think it's a hard K.
Kanani. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Canaan.
His book was really interesting because it's the first time where it's really religious based.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa,
they're the only base. Nobody could stand Feisty, Jace. Nobody. Feisty didn't even like Feisty.
But when they were doing all that drama in the bus and all that.
Okay, so true story that happened even in the Philippines, and I just like, oh, I can't do this. I'm putting my headphones on.
Really?
Yes, people will in the bus, they'll just start spitting all of this, and we're like, we're just trying to get home. Like we don't.
And that's literally the feel of the people who were on the bus.
Yeah, I was.
The feel of the people on the bus with her was like, shut up. We just.
I was just reading that part. I was reading that part. And I was like, oh, this is too close to home. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
I was like, this is just
I was so disgusted. They were preaching the Lord's word, and then they were, getting the freak on in the bed like crazy, and then being guilty about it. It was like
feeling guilty about it. Like it's not guilty. You don't screw your husband. What? I don't. I'm like
problem.
They annoy the screw out of me.
Have sex. I mean, you're having sex with your wife and your husband, but there's a problem. How does this work? I don't know. Those two were a hot mess.
And everything Anita said in their witness was all lies. And yes, that is what annoyed me about them. Like, if you have this true, as someone with who is Christian and has a faith base, I ain't got to make up shit about what has happened in my life to make a point and to make a case for God. So that vexed the stew out of me, because if you've truly had an encounter and this is what you truly believe, you don't have to make it up. You can actually talk. You don't have to tell people I killed my husband, I drowned my babies. Your baby's sitting right beside, and then the Lord forgave me and gave me mercy and gave me these two kids. No, ma'am. No.
But the thing is, where they were on their own children, they didn't even see their own children. They weren't even taking care of their kids.
They weren't taking care of their kids. Their kids were taking care of themselves and learning based on what they heard through the wall. And what I find most interesting about what the heck were the kids' names?
Which one?
Ruth and Job's kids. Or were Ruth and Job the kids?
Yeah, Ruth and Job are the kids.
Yeah, Stacey and Kenan. Yeah. Okay, what I found most interesting about Ruth and Job was because they had this experience with both of their parents being complete liars under the guise of, or to make themselves, to bring in crop for God, and their standoffishness about faith and church, they still ended up going to church, but they went to church just for the feeling of going to church. They didn't go to church to have an experience of any type of faith experience or faith connection. And I found that very interesting, and I like that Paolo points that out. Like, what is the purpose? Why are you even going when you don't believe in this? Like, it's a waste of your time. You don't believe in what you're doing, so why are you bothering to go?
But I think that what another thing is in that book is that shows that part of the fallout from religious people going over and trying to make Ugandans, make them Christian. It shows like the how it's not even like the person is actually practicing religion. So some kind of mechanical thing that they're doing, you know. They're saying prayers, but they don't really know, they're not really connecting with what that really is, saying those particular prayers or doing these particular things. This is one of the reasons why they go out in the bus and try to pretend that they're more religious than they really are, and to try to maybe convince people to conform to Catholicism, which we have.
They weren't even Catholics. They weren't even Catholics.
It's like this. They're later on in the book, we have this confrontation between the idea of who's Christian and who's Muslim, and the difference between the two. So
that's one thing I did not research. I wanted to do some research on, what is it, Idi Amin? And I did not have the time to do research on that. Jace in the chat brought up a very good point. They said, I cannot tell from your picture, my apologies. I think Feisty's self-hate did a good job of showing how colonial Christianity can cause a lot of guilt and condemnation. And I think that is an excellent point, because there is a difference between Christianity and colonial Christianity.
That had a very heavy effect. Was when missionaries were going over there and so-called, calming the natives and all the stuff that they were saying, making them, so-called Christians, was going to save them and stuff. And that whole book 3 just shows you the hypocrisy of it all, that it's not what it appears to be at all. It's something else. Why do you think she changes between the names with Magda and Buiza? Why do you think she changes constantly? One moment she's calling Magda, and the next minute it's Buiza. Does anybody know or have any ideas on why that is? I couldn't figure it out.
Magda, well, Buiza, number one, I think it's the thought that Africans or Ugandans maybe just don't have one name. That they have more than one name, because Buiza gives Ruth, when she comes there, she gives her like 3 names, and she said that when the Anglicans came and they tried to make her change her name, they wanted to change her name to Mary Magdalene. She was like, oh hell no, that's not the life I'm living. And so she is, because her African name is Magda. But then there was another name that she gave her, and then she said, but you can call me Buiza.
Yeah.
So I think she had more than one name, and I think that's something that is traditional. I'm reading the chat in 2 places, y'all. So
yeah. Oh, you're reading it too? I'm reading it on the screen.
Yeah, I'm reading it on YouTube, and then because it pops on YouTube before it pops on StreamYard.
Somebody said, I think it's Dominique says, I think Magda was fluid between the traditional and modern. Okay, now I can go with that.
Yeah.
She was hilarious in that she was able to mock and live her life as she wanted.
Okay.
I loved that about Buiza. Like she is that, in my mind, she is that no nonsense aunt that it doesn't matter what you say. The truth is the truth, and you're not going to change the truth, and you can try to avoid the truth as much as you want to, but guess what you're going to get from me? The truth.
Yeah, the truth.
I love her.
The things you don't like. All right, let's go to book 4. Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton Kintu. Okay. Who's playing who? Where? Isaac Newton Kintu, descendant of Chindu Chitta in Babir. So Isaac
is the one who also doesn't have he also doesn't have a place. Also, there's this huge tie between Isaac and his sexual organs. Even as he is a baby, he's fascinated by his penis. And then he grows up to be ugly and can only get ass, but once he becomes a DJ. With all the chicks are on his jock, and he can get it anytime, anywhere he wants to. But can we
say anything about him or the club?
It's the club lifestyle. And that's
say something about the club or Isaac. I don't know which one that is, but
but his grandfather, when the daughter, first it's the shucking of tradition, because I'm here to Marcus, but it's the shucking of tradition because his grandfather put all of this, he had all of these boys, and he put all of this hope for the future of the family in these boys. These boys are going to make money, they're going to do this, and support us. They dumb as rocks, like the rocks under the rocks, they dumb as rocks.
And they didn't want to do anything.
and then he has Isaac's mother, who is Namada,
yeah.
And she's smart. She loves school. And so he's like, okay, I'm gonna put all my stock in this girl. This girl is gonna be my heir. And then this girl gets raped by the teacher and nobody believes her.
That like annoyed the hell out of me that nobody believed her. And then in the end,
he didn't believe her until he goes to talk to Mr. Kintu, and Mr. Kintu doesn't take responsibility. And then he's like, oh, so you must have raped her. The fuck?
Yeah, I know. That showed you the horrors of patriarchy right there.
No, what really showed you the horrors
of all their men.
What really shows you the horrors of patriarchy is when she pops up pregnant after being raped, and her father says, "If I knew this was going to happen, I should have slept."
Exactly. What? Yeah, I know. It's like, what? Yeah, it was crazy. It was madness.
That.
Really, really awful. And then she becomes a victim of the whole situation and is just
and her running away. I have to give Isaac his props, because to have her leave him and run away, and from that point on, he goes from different stages of being an orphan. His mom, his grandma's taking care of him as best as she can, and then he dies on the way home. And he never finds her. Like and then so now you're an orphan again, and then he finds Sasa.
Yeah.
Sasa, teaches him everything that he knows, gets him into college, helps him to take his A-levels.
Off of the fact that he just liked him and wanted to help him.
And then he gets AIDS and dies.
He dies
So this, like, he goes through different stages of being an orphan where he has no connections, and then he meets Naiga.
Naiga
with the
that whole situation is just hilarious.
But in that book, what's interesting is the way she talks about the AIDS epidemic. In the beginning, she doesn't say it's AIDS, but she
said she quote unquote gave you something.
Worrying about what it is, what the illness is, but the way she talks about it is very interesting. Sasa dies and leaves Isaac with some money.
Yes.
The robber. Yeah, she died carrying sugar.
progressed a little bit because he got the money from what was left over from Sasa. So, and then meeting Nayiga while he was so-called trying to play her, which he wasn't doing a good job of it because he was playing him.
No, he was doing his part.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing it really well because he changing his mind, Tatiana. You can't take a girl and say, "Wait, let me drive you home," and then on the way, "Wait, let me go by my place."
Yes, he can because he'd done it before. This was his game. He had a history of getting ass that way. I'm gonna get you drunk. I'm gonna take you home, but we gonna the only reason why it didn't work with Nayiga is because Nayiga was a hooker and she knew the game.
Better than him.
Try me. Came out with a whole machete, like a
whole machete, and he was like, I would have thought that he would have been like put off. No, it was like the machete was turning him on or something.
She says, "I have a knife," and she pulls out what's this?
Why do you? I thought you had a knife.
Fucking machete.
I was like, why do you have a knife? I thought you had a knife.
And also, what kind of person she going to the club with?
I was like, yeah, but I don't know. It's like watching, I don't know. When the way it was described, it just made me laugh,
It was absolutely hilarious.
It's like a real
hilarious.
Where she
and the way she worked her story. My sister kicked me out. I'm pregnant. She kicked me out. I ain't got nowhere to go. We don't have any babies. Like,
but it's very comic relief, and I mean, you can actually see this being filmed. That scene. With her saying, "Yeah, I've got a knife in my purse." Boom! This big, huge. And she pulls out of her little tiny purse.
No, but again, that's like a Mary Poppins situation. What the fuck kind of purse was she wearing? That's what I need to know.
I don't know, but I'm thinking, what is this? This is some kind of clown bag, where the clowns, they pull open their bag and they pull all kinds of crap out their bag.
It's hilarious.
She was like, "Oh hell, she got a knife. She got a machete."
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the main things. I think talking about the AIDS epidemic, and this is when Isaac assumes that he has AIDS.
Yeah.
And what made me mad about that?
Look at the results.
Yeah, what made me mad about that is you ready to take out your kid, and you haven't even looked at the results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a bit weird. I kept saying, "When are you gonna look at the results?" It's like,
Danielle. She said his name was Isaac Newton and he didn't understand the gravity of his situation.
I know. Well, it's cute how he gets his name. Isn't it cute how he gets his name?
Yeah, it is. It is. And she left. But then she left. And again, what I respect about Isaac out of this whole situation is that he you know what? I've heard that. Maria. What I respect about him is that when his mother shows up, even though they don't develop a relationship, he still puts himself in there to take care of his mother and make sure that she is financially supported. He sets up a stall for her so that she can go and then does the financial work for her. This money needs to go here. He sets her budget up and everything, and then
he's doing the business.
But to take the time to do that for someone who you don't have a relationship with because they left you, and then when she show up with all these kids in tow. So
she showed up with 5 kids, not me. 5 freaking kids she showed up with.
So what makes them okay to keep and not me?
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that. She gonna show up with 5 kids? Okay.
Yeah.
He was a good son. Somebody said he was a good son despite it all.
I think one thing.
I think the shame plays a role as
that's what I wanted.
Taboo. And that's probably why he was afraid to look at the results.
Because once he finds out,
to this day, shame still plays a role.
Well, yeah, once he knows it's there, it's out there.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah,
and especially you got to think about the times that they're at. Like it's.
Whose dreams?
Don't even.
Character.
Don't even.
Do you want to go to the last book? I guess you could say.
The last book, book 5. Is it Misi?
Misi.
It's Misi or Maisi. I don't know. I
guess Misi.
I get Misi.
Yeah, in my head I was saying Misi.
I was saying Misi for half of it, and then the first time I read it, I said Misi the whole time. But this time I said Misi for part of it, and then Maisi for the other part. So I don't know. And yes, Teresa, that is so much better to set up a person than just give the money. I totally agree. But there is emotional time and work that is put into setting up a person that I don't know if children who are abandoned in this day and age would take the time to do that. Like that you have memory of your mama exiting the door. I don't know that kids of this day and age would do that. And that's
I think he was great. He was a great character for that because he did not need to take care of his mama because his mama left him high and dry.
Straight fuckery, Danielle. That's what it is.
You know.
So yeah, even during the morning, people yes, and that annoyed. Like what made me so mad about that entire situation with the morning and it's again the assumption that she had AIDS. Nobody had a diagnosis.
No.
Nobody had a diagnosis. That's number one. Number two, how are you judging this man and totally setting him apart? He got no support, no love. And that's a soft spot for me. I have for people who are grieving. That's a soft, as being someone who has grieved. That's a soft spot for me. And he got no support, no love. The only people who gave a fuck about Isaac were his coworkers.
Yeah.
And that is just, and his mother-in-law just sitting there like she the queen of queens. Bitch, this ain't your.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. That I was just like, you good, you good, Isaac, because it wouldn't be me. Like you good, it wouldn't be me.
Oh my gosh, Marina has me cackling.
I think
we don't need a doctor. We are the doctor.
Yes,
exactly.
I think with Misty, my favorite thing was that his was basically the most magical. I guess you could say, like it's with the way that his visions were working. Because this is the part where the book goes back and forth between what he sees and what he's dreaming and like what's real life. Even the part where when his daughter visits him, I was like, I don't think what you saw was what you saw. Because he was like, I forgot to go make you go visit. I was like, I don't think that was real. I thought that was real.
Yeah, I really what I like the most about Maisi's story or Misi's story is that he was in such denial. Like he's the educated Negro who done gone and got all of this knowledge, and he's so smart. He don't know he's stupid, and it's the total denial of your heritage. That's another thing that Wisa said to Kanani when Ruth had Paulo, that you should do the rites on Paulo. It just because you observe family tradition will not make you less Christian, less of a Christian. And Misi was so educated that he had no cares, nothing, that all the family tradition, the history that we know, because you're here. He had the least amount of space to travel to get to
the whole point of his character. He's supposed to be that Ugandan who goes abroad to get educated, and of course when he comes back and they say he's a doctor, they're like, he's a doctor, but what, he's not a medical doctor? What's the point of being a doctor of, letters or something like that. I mean, they want the person to come back and be a medical doctor. But he's supposed to be the most intelligent, but he's the one that has been given the gift and he doesn't realize he's got it. And I think that's the whole point, is that he is sort of like this person who is not, he's like, he's between two worlds in a way.
He is.
He's not accepting to his gifts. He doesn't believe his gifts.
And that's why he has a mental break.
Exactly.
Because he's not accepting, and it gets to the point where it's like, I am here and you are going to recognize me or I'm going to take over. And he gets taken over. He gets taken over.
He has these dreams and he doesn't take any of it seriously.
That's what dreams are for.
He doesn't take anything seriously. He just acts like it's like some circumstance that he's dreaming all this stuff. And I'm like, dude,
and not only that, he goes through, he remembers his dreams. Like, to me, when you remember your dreams, that's
the details and everything.
And then he remembers all the detail, and he takes them when they're prepping for the reunion. He takes them everywhere that the bee man in his dream tells him to go. And I believe there's discussion in the chat about the bees being confusing. We discussed before we started that we think the bees were an omen of Kamu's death. Because that's what the kids say when the bees show up at the house, and then that in the dream, the bees were the spirit of Kintu.
Yeah.
Showing him where the people were buried and telling him what to look for. And you go and you see it. They have eyes, but they do not see. You go and you see it, and you still don't believe everything.
He was a little frustrating for me there at the end, because you felt like he was about to get it, and then he would just turn back around and be like, no, he didn't get it.
I think so too.
I know he didn't get it,
I think so too, Anita, but I think it went hand in hand. I think if he had whispered into the stick, because Anita says she thinks the mental break is because he doesn't whisper into the stick. I think if he had whispered into the stick, then who would have become the guardian? Because the spirits had told them that there would be a guardian of the anniversary reunion site. If it weren't him, again, Makumbi writing, curating her story. If it wasn't Misi, then who would it have been? And y'all comments are coming in fast as hell.
Yeah, they are going so fast.
Yeah, I'm trying to read them. The two characters that didn't participate in the whispering into the stick had bad things happen. Kanani, dies, and Misi goes crazy.
Right. And then you have the character who whispers into the stick and doesn't burn the stick, and she gets broke all the way up.
But the stick didn't get burned properly.
Well, no, the stick didn't get burned at all. She kept it. And so Babirye, the spirit of Babirye, was like, you're going to try to burn me? You've been denying me all your life. And now you're going to think I exist? No, this is not how we're going to do that. So Babirye is like, let's go. And she takes her over and starts breaking her up. And the difference is, I would love to get more of Subi's story, not just because she's my favorite character, but now that she has come to a place where she is making peace with the part of her that lives in her, that is the spirit of Babirye. I would love to know how she continues to go about life while she has to wear the bracelet and the beads and the earrings, because if she's separated from Babirye, your ass in trouble, because you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
You were supposed to do. I mean, all right, so Dominique says, I think with Misi too, it was like you have to choose something. Believe in something, dude. It's true, because it was like he had it all. He had both sides, and he wasn't doing nothing with any of it. He was just sort of existing. Faizi Kanani chose Jesus. Subi understood the curse. Everybody had their
understanding, their connection. Even with Faizi and Kanani, Faizi won't family. Fuck her. Even with Kanani choosing Jesus, Kanani chose Jesus, but he was still aware of his family history. He chose to ignore and to not respect it. That's a difference. So still making an active choice, but he was aware. Like, nobody in this lineage, hundreds of years later, everybody knew, don't hit your baby in the head. Nakado had all, now that was not, Nakado had all these babies. Poor baby, she get shorty under the
But I just the end was really edifying, because that's when you really see what the characters are made of.
Yeah, you know, it literally brings everything together.
Jesus at the end, you know, and it's.
I want Paolo and Isaac to become friend cousins. Like I want them to become brother cousins, because I feel like they both, of the people who are at the reunion, even with
they're the most jilted. Yeah.
They're well, not even that. They're the most separate. They're the two who are truly alone. They are truly alone in the family, because even Scooby has the connection to Wisa. They have no connection to the family.
Nothing.
I would love for them to be.
How bad is that? You go to this family reunion thing and you find out that you're the product of incest. Like,
no, and the visual. The visual of the assistant coming out and throwing the herbs in the spot I want to see that, because I want to see the look on his face, like, you motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's like looking at Job like, yeah, when y'all was gonna tell me, you know, kind of thing.
Right. Right. But he's so matter of fact about it, because he's like, she told me. She told me. I just didn't understand that she was telling me.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hey.
Makumbi. Hello. Thank you for coming to be with us tonight. We've been discussing your book for an hour. I don't know if you've listened. Have you been listening to us?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's okay, because we have lots of questions for you.
Have you?
thoroughly enjoyed your book.
Thank you.
And we're just so happy that you could come with us tonight to talk more in depth about Kintu.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you some questions in the beginning just to get us started. The first question I have is, how does one start writing a book like Kintu, epic, multi-generational? How do you start writing something like that? Is that something that you got like as a spark in writing, or is it something that you really planned on doing?
Okay, first of all, hi, Michael.
Hi.
Hi, Tati.
Hi.
Lovely to be with you. How does one start writing a book like this? I think it was knocking around in my head for some time. Perhaps 4 years before I finally got the guts to put it down. But it was one of those books that I couldn't just handle with one main character. I just couldn't handle it. It was so big in scope. And luckily, I was so naive. I thought I could do it. Had I known what I know now, perhaps I would have been a little bit overwhelmed. But I thought, yeah, I can do it.
Well, yeah, it's naivete, because
you did it. Yeah, you did that.
What happened was that perhaps in 2003, I wrote the first book, and I put it away for 2 years. Came back to it 2005. I wrote the second book, and 2007 I wrote the third book. By then, the rhythm, the characters, and what the book was going to turn into started to form. Okay. And at the time, in between those years that I was not working, I was working on another book, which I thought would be published first, which is actually coming out now. Okay. But when that book was rejected, then I thought, okay, I have no option. Kintu, where are you? and I started working on it quite seriously. And at that time, I had already those 4 characters from contemporary time, and I decided to develop all of them.
Okay.
And then I decided, okay, they are the descendants, because at first it was Kintu coming back. So I would have Kintu coming back as Nachintu, and then he comes back as Kenan, and he comes back, and in a way he does, because those are his descendants. But in the end, I decided, okay, these are just descendants. I'll have him as complete and gone. And then he stays. He doesn't know. Of course, he does not join the ancestors. He stays to protect them. And so then I decided, okay, I'll open with the most momentous incident or event that decides that, okay, this is it. This is it. Even Kintu decides the curse has gone too far. You know what? We're going to start working towards breaking it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, Michael, you want to ask a question?
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
I had a question about your process of translating. How did that go about for you to English?
I didn't. I speak English as so in Uganda we speak both our not traditional, our first languages and English, but we tend to write in English. So because we have a colonial language, a colonial education, we actually don't learn how to write our languages. We speak them, but we don't learn how to write them and go into the intricacies of grammar and syntax. And in fact, English is a lot easier for us to learn than our traditional languages, yes, which are very, very difficult. That's the nature of colonization. It just does not make sense.
Yeah.
Yes. Especially me, when I first learned English, English was so hard because you're right, it makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah. But we are so desperate to learn English and to speak this global language and insert ourselves in the rest of the world that we neglect our languages. So Kintu has not even been published in my first language.
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
I didn't either.
So I do speak my language. I do write it. But so I can write a letter to my mother. I do write texts. But when it comes to write proper Luganda, those who have studied the subject would be like, get out of here.
No.
It's that bad. In fact, I did a module for my first degree where I translated text into my first language, and I failed it. I know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wrote it straight away in English, but it's a Ugandan English, because I think that's the other thing that I should mention, that much as we all speak English in these countries that were colonized by Britain, it's not proper English. It's English that is mixed with our languages. Yeah. It's not exactly patois, but it's along the way. If I get very comfortable with you, I will start slipping to my Luganda English. We call it Uglish. Okay. So the Nigerian have Niger. That is their patois. The Zimbabwean has Zinglish. We just taken this language and done things to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's normal. Tatiana, you have a question?
I'm trying to ask a question. I'm so like, I'm in awe right now, and I don't even know. I need to flip my book because I don't know if I'm going to say what I wrote. So I'm looking just at my notes. This is, I want to say, this is my second time reading Kintu, because the first time my friends didn't read it with me, so I wanted to reread it with my friends. And what stuck out to me stuck out to me a lot in the first time I read it and the second time, because the first time when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, Africanstein. The description of the effect and the work of colonization in Africanstein was it was jaw-dropping, it was eye-opening, it was absolute, like, fuck Frankenstein. It was absolutely amazing. How did you come up with that? Like, how? Because I never, and what it made me think about was the Israelites, when they were conquered and they were taken into Babylon and they started mixing in their cultures and their heritages with Babylon. That's what it made me think about. And I was like, but this is better. What made you, I'm sorry, I am so geeked right now. How did you come up with that analogy?
First of all, sister, do not apologize, for the way you speak or how you feel. I'm just enjoying it, first of all. So I live for this kind of thing, what keeps me going. And so that analogy, it came from a place of pain, and it came from a place of anger. And I think in the whole of this book, that's when I let my anger spill on the page. But I had been told, when I was doing my first degree, that if you're going to be angry, rein it in. Use humor, use sarcasm, because sometimes when you're really, really angry, people just close their ears and their mind. Yeah, you know this. You know how
I was told this as a kid. I'm blown.
I know. For me, when I was a child, I would do something wrong, and my mom would, oh, so you didn't do your chores. Oh, that's really wonderful, because after you have asked your servants, and didn't you enjoy doing her chores? Oh, but if she said, oh my God, how dare her? I was like, okay, So this is where I come from. I was like, I'm not going to shout. I'm not going to say what they expect me to say. Let me use sarcasm. Let me just hold all the anger in and just use an imagery that is Western, that they will understand. So I think that, and I kept on removing it and putting it back, removing it and putting it back. Controversial, Jennifer, you decided you're not going to be so obvious, but in the end I said, F you.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it in there.
Yeah. Awesome.
I am so happy that you left it in. The first time I read this, the whole time I was reading it, I was like, I want to suggest this to my dad. My dad and I have two completely different reading tastes. I was like, my dad should read this. My dad should read this. And then I read Africanstein. Neil! I'm so glad that you left it in, because it's so impactful. Like, I'm going to shut up because.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. That's
very good. Going.
When somebody gets it and gets it the way you do, I think, those were 10 good years, not down the drain.
Yes. Well spent. Time well spent.
I have a question concerning the way you use twins in the book. So I noticed how you use them in a progressive way. It starts in book 1 where they're always saying, but they're the same. They're one and the same. Mm-hmm. And then as they progress, the twins, they do more and different things. Why did you decide to use twins, and how do Ugandans today feel about the idea of having twins?
Okay. First of all, twins are revered in my culture.
Okay.
Oh, a woman has twins. First of all, she's renamed. Her husband is renamed, and in the past, even the children that have been born, they are renamed, and the children that come after twins are also given special names. So any person you meet, you will know that they are twins in the family. Okay. And in the past, if you had twins and you were caught stealing food, you're not prosecuted because you have twins. Because a man would turn around, after all, I have two, you have only singular. What am I supposed to do? You know, it's so. Every woman in Uganda wants to have twins, because then, yeah, we do, but especially identical twins, they are revered.
Okay. Yeah.
So the way, first of all, the twin thing was also genetic, but it later starts to represent that duality that is Uganda now, you know?
Okay.
Because we are Uganda, we are Baganda, we are all of these things that we are, that are cultural, that are indigenous, but we are also Christian, or we are Muslim, and we also have a European education. We also have a social. Again, we bought so much into Europe.
Okay.
So there's that duality, as you, Michael, pointed out, in terms of language, that I speak both my first language and I speak English. You know, so we have that twin culture. So it was very useful as a symbol in that respect. But for Ugandans, once they saw that one woman gave birth to twins, they would know how she would be treated, and what that then meant for the wife who is not giving birth to twins. Exactly. And therefore the question was, how is Kintu going to maneuver this? Because first of all, he was supposed to marry both of them. And he should have married the older one first, even though he was in love with the younger one. But he didn't. The younger one. So he takes his young ones, his favorite, and guess what? She can have children.
Exactly.
And then, okay, we've always been able to help each other. So the older twin comes around and helps. But she only gives birth to twins. And she's supposed to be like, yeah, oh my God. But he still loves the younger one more. And
he still loves the younger one more,
yeah, and your children are going to belong to her as well.
Right. And I was wondering, is that or was that a question within a question, a cultural thing when they had multiple wives? Was it the usual for if one wife had children, they were all the wives' children? Or was that something that was different that Nakato and Kintu put together for this story?
No, that's the way.
That's the way.
All your father's wives are your mother.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And there are families where children don't even know exactly who
their mother is. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you something which I don't want you to quote me on. Okay. So, in the past, women, we are just working this out now. A woman would marry a man, and then she would turn around and say to him, recently when I went to visit my parents, I saw a beautiful young girl whom I thought you should marry.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you have a look at her and see? So he would go bring her. She would go again for another visit. You know, the man would end up having 5 women. And these women tended to get along wonderfully.
Very well.
Wonderfully. Like, you know. But now we think these were gay women.
I love it. I love it.
A woman builds her own harem, and the husband.
Like, you're gonna marry her, but I'm gonna marry her too.
You joke with African women.
I love it. Yes.
Okay. So y'all just work that out now.
Yeah, we are now just working out. Because you grew up and your grandmothers were like, they loved each other more than they loved their husband. What's going on here? A wife dies and she cries like hell. Now we are thinking. And they would breastfeed each other's children. One would say, okay, I'm going home to visit my parents, because this is how they used to take a break from marriage. They would say, I am going to visit home. And they would go for 3 months and come back, pampered. Right. Yes, because this mothering, this wifing, and this grandmothering was a little too much. Mm-hmm. But the mother would leave the child behind with the other mothers. And they would take care. Wow. And I just kept on wondering what was. So again, this is how Christianity messed up everything. So the men would cater for a gay man in a way that they would make the wife have children with a brother, because again in our culture, your uncle's children are not your cousins. Your brother and sister,
brothers.
Yeah, if your fathers are brothers. So we all always doubt. We have a saying that you don't know who your father is until your mother is dead. Because mothers would turn around and say, your children are not yours. If you mess around with me, I'll tell them.
Yeah.
As soon as your mother is dead, you're like, okay.
Okay,
it's my dad.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, sirs.
I wasn't expecting you to say that. Not at all.
This is the thing about patriarchy. The women found ways of going around it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, women have to find some kind of control of some kind within the family ranks. It can't just be the man. It's impossible. There's too much to do. It's too much to do. It's the woman has to find her way in the family.
So they did.
Yeah.
And actually they sustained the patriarchy for a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Learning things tonight. Okay, I have another question. When you were, because the thing that I like the most about Kintu is how it feels like Russian dolls. It's a story inside of another story inside of another story. How did you do that on purpose, or did that just flow out of you naturally as you were writing the story? Because I felt like it was just so airtight, the way the stories flowed within each other, the way they did.
I think that might come from the traditional storytelling.
Okay.
Because I actually told this story very naturally, rather than in a studied way.
Yeah.
Because that's the way we tell stories, really. There's a way. If you've read other African novels, especially the likes of Achebe, a story is supposed to go that way forward. But sometimes we go that way.
Yeah.
And then we go that way. Yeah. And you have to be patient with us, knowing that we're going to come back and go forward.
We'll go back
and then go that way. I don't know why that is, but that's the way we tell stories. And I thought that was the natural way to tell this story, because it was about a family. And you know how large our families are. Okay, so there's no way I could tell Kintu's story, Kintu the patriarch, without going and talking a little bit about the twins. Okay, without going over there and talking about the king, you know, or going a little bit over there and talking about the Tutsi. But because Kintu is not an individual, he's part of a community, and without him, he's nothing. And this is why the novel drives us crazy. This idea of individualism. You know, how on earth? And when people say, "Oh, there are so many characters," how do we look back in your life? How many people have you met? You know, talking about people you've studied in school, in university, or people you've worked with. You've met a lot of people, and normally you remember them when you meet them. Absolutely. It's the same in the book, you know. This individual, and you're getting bored with the individual. Kintu is the way he is because of Nakato, because of everybody around him. Now, you might look at Kintu as a chief, as huge, big, but Nakato makes him big. She picks him up. You know, she's the one who goes around the community looking after the wives, making sure the children know each other, making sure that if the wife has not had a child in 2 years, then that wife is to be brought in her own home, and she says, "Husband, you know what? Pull your socks up. Go on." You know,
you have to take care of your wife.
He was, you know, being controlled by these women, but in such a way that made him chief. He went around, "I am chief. I am chief now." But
he was also like he was controlled a lot, because he was controlled by the women. He was controlled by what was going on with the monarchy that they had at the time. There was very little. I think the only thing really that was completely in his own control was Kalima.
Yes.
That's right. Like, oh, okay.
I didn't go so good.
That's the one. That's like the one thing that he was truly in control of. And
I know. And look what he did.
Right.
And he even after it happened, he kept on saying, "If Nakato was here, she would know what to do." And even then, she sensed that something was wrong. Only he told her. You know. So this idea of the African man that is so in control, that is, "I am a man." And I remember when I started writing this book and I took it to the MA class, and everyone kept on saying, "But he is supposed to be a man." And it's like, but he's an African man. They say, it just did not make sense to them, because they had been told that African men are like, woo. Well, not the ones that I grew up with.
They don't know any African men.
They don't.
Exactly.
They don't, you know. And so I enjoyed that triangle, Kintu, Nakato, and Babidi. I did.
It was very good. Michael, you have a question?
Well, we do have some questions from the chat. Kay asked, which story, like out of the books, was the most difficult to write and why?
Okay, which one was? I think it was Suri. Suri was very difficult, and had to win. Because at first I wanted to make her very accessible, and you know, put all our, because I was writing in Manchester and I was aware of how the West reads, I wanted to make it very accessible and easy to understand. But the other twin, that is Sanyu, kept on pulling back. I just could not articulate her the way the West would understand. And in the end, I just let go. And I said, okay, this is a twin that is going to haunt her sister, and she will just appear within her sister. And even the last part where she takes possession of her body entirely, that was also very difficult to write. And also because I could not make up my mind whether Subi is just pretending not to remember, or she's actually forgotten. In the end, I decided, this is the way it has come to you. Readers can work it out. Just leave it to them. They will work it out themselves. But I struggled a lot with articulating her and letting her be. And once I decided, you know what, just the way you understand her, the readers will, I stepped out of the way and I just let the story go. But she was pretty difficult to write. The other person that was difficult to write was Faith, Canaan's wife. She was overpowering, that woman. I mean, it was just overpowering. And I kept on saying, she is not a Kintu blood. She cannot be. And I failed to control her. In the end, her strength, I made her strength her weakness. Can you imagine? I am a feminist and I'm making a woman. But she was not a descendant of Kintu. And so I made her a little rigid, especially in relation to her daughters, a daughter and son, and made her husband being a quiet and controlled his strength and the aspect about him. And also then, I eventually realized there was that aspect in his great-grandfather, because each one of them needed to be a part of him. So that part that is controlled, that is just like Kintu. So it's those two characters that were really difficult.
Can I say I find it like yay to me and interesting that your two most difficult characters to write were my favorite and my least favorite characters. Subi was my favorite character, and Feisty was my least favorite. And I just like chucked her off like she's only here to control Kanani. She is not important to the Kintu lineage. But I find that very interesting, because like Subi's choosing, I think she was, for me, she was one of those characters who chose to forget and then started to believe her own fallacy. And so she was so invested in that by the time she gets to the reunion and reality starts to invade the memories that she's created for herself, she has a problem.
Absolutely. Well, and guess what? I during those 10 years, I would fall out with characters and I would fall in love with characters. I think I loved Subi most for a long time. But I think at the point where she's seriously rejecting her sisters, when I say, no, I don't like you very much. But the person that I started to love after the book was published was Canaan. Because I never really liked him. But it's only, and you won't believe this because I'm the author and I should have known. But sometimes a book does things that you're not aware of, that you have not intentionally done. But one of the things that I started to love about Canaan is the way he gave up his chance to go to heaven in order to save his grandson. You know, because he says he's going to the reunion to preach the word of God. But eventually I realized that he had taken his grandson. That he realized that the church had, because the whole idea of Canaan being so religious was the curse to break. He thought Christ would save him. It's until the twins have a child together and the child is called Kalima that he realizes, okay, Christ did not
We
save
got a problem. We got a problem up in here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so
he comes up with that name on his own. So it's a complete like smack in the face to Kanani the
yeah, absolutely. So even though he goes and tries to preach, but he has actually brought that boy for redemption. And he does get his redemption.
Yes.
And then Canaan dies. But I know he is going nowhere in heaven. Absolutely.
Well, technically, he believes how he is. Other people may be shocked when he gets there, but technically, he believes. So,
yeah, I know that guy
Probably
was
not
hard for salvation. He
doesn't lying about your salvation as well, like lying about the road, the act of sowing, like this stuff you're sowing, you're sowing lies.
I know. But one of the things that I thought I would get in trouble with in Uganda is that these twins have committed incest. They should not be friends. They should not, but they carried on loving each other, even though that love was no longer sexual. They stayed with each other. They were very close. And I thought, they are not going to act guilty.
And but they didn't act guilty. Did they know? Was there a knowledge for them or an understanding for them that what they did was wrong? They didn't have that understanding because they were so unto themselves.
They are. And here's the thing. Before the arrival of Christianity, sex education was important. So those twins should have been sent over to their aunt, where eventually Ruth is taken. Yeah. That is the woman who should have prepared them.
Oh, for that. Yeah.
Yeah, she should have told them, this is what happens to you, this is what you do. But all they had were their parents, and this was happening to their bodies. They had no idea what they were doing. But because of Christianity, those structures where children were prepared had fallen away. And all of these kids, all of them, including Isaac, including Sylvie, they all sexually they were messed up. But
they were messed up.
But culturally in Uganda, girls, as you start to be prepared for sex at age 12 before you have your period. And that aunt who prepares you, then when you get married, you take her with you in your marriage, not necessarily physically, but she visits every month. Or after marriage, perhaps visits every 3 months, just to make sure you're not making a mess of things.
Oh wow! Okay. This is the horror story that the men told Belle at the bachelor party with the aunt being under the bed. Oh my god! Oh.
Yeah, that's party. Exactly. Yeah.
Now, what you saw was the boys' side. But with the girl, they start even a lot earlier because that's how they protect girls from getting pregnant before marriage. They are informed that what happens if this happens to you, because often many girls would not know what was happening to them, you know, when it comes to the first sexual encounter. But they were told. So again, Kintu did talk to his son first, and then he sends him out to a woman who is a princess. Princesses can do whatever they want.
So she can groom.
I know. He goes out and he asks, tell me, is he good? Does he know what he's doing? And the princess is like, well, I could have taken him with me if you were not so clingy.
I'd have kept him if you ain't want him back. Oh my gosh.
Okay, there's a question from Dominique that's really interesting.
Yes.
She wrote, how do you turn a kingdom into a country? Can you speak to this theme in the characters' minds and in the society?
Okay. Indeed. Because in a way, how dare, that question is, how dare you turn a kingdom into a country?
Yeah.
But that is the
How do you turn a kingdom into a country?
Yeah. So here's what happened. The British arrived. I think they would hear about Buganda Kingdom right at the coast in Mombasa, and they were told about this kingdom and how wonderful it was, and they would make their way. And in the beginning, the king realized that he could use the British to expand his kingdom. And in fact, the whole of Uganda was supposed to become Buganda Kingdom. You know, but first of all, the English did not hear Buganda. They had Uganda. The B is very silent. So this is where we lose the B.
Yeah, okay.
And then after the all different tribes united under Buganda Kingdom, they said, well, it's not your kingdom, it's our country. And so that's when colonization took place, and this is a protectorate. And of course, all those who had been incorporated in Buganda then start to say, excuse me, but we are not Buganda. We are not you, you know. And so at the point of independence, it cannot be a kingdom. It can no longer be a kingdom. It can only be a country.
When you get your independence, you lose the act of a king. You lose that position.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, because he was supposed to be the first president, and the Baganda didn't know. They were not so sure because president seemed less than king, and they wanted to get rid of the rest of the country and just go back to Buganda Kingdom. And it was very difficult because of that. The rest of the ethnicities got together, kicked the king out, and it became Uganda. That's how you make a kingdom.
A kingdom, a country.
A country. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I have a question.
Go on.
I have a question. This was the first. I don't even know how to. This is the first novel that I've read written by a woman that is so masculine.
Yes.
And so many times men try to write novels with females as their main characters, and they jack it up, and we complain. And so my question was, have you received in the feedback that you got from male writers? Have you encountered anyone complaining? Because we are very vocal about complaining about men getting women wrong.
Yes, I received some complaints, but they are not the kind of complaints I expected. I expected people to say, but men were not properly. Actually, men were very happy that I showed the aspect of that sometimes masculinities are oppressed within the patriarchy. They were pretty happy with that. But what they did not like is the fact, and I did not realize this, that most of the men died, apparently.
Well, to give them credit.
It was in the papers. Don't even joke about it. Goes and kills all the men. And then on top of that, she puts the gun, which is a phallic symbol, into the hands of women.
You left some men alive. The older men. You left some men.
I know.
Older men and Kamu, they're gone. But Kusi is the vengeful sister I want to be.
Yeah, Kusi was very good.
Wasn't she?
She was awesome.
I want to be General Salamander, not for the country, but for my family. Like
I know. She
awesome.
was a fantasy. She was my fantasy.
But she's my fantasy too, because is it Misi?
Yes.
Oh, it's Misi. Yeah.
Okay. When Misi puts that together, I was like, yes.
Yeah, but I like Kusi's her first talk. She said when her father said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be meeting up with some of our family. We have family," and she was like, "Oh, what do they want?" Right? We have family. What do they want?
Oh my gosh! Yes, and that's
around, you know. It's
that's
very
the question
well
that Black folk in general ask when new family members pop up. So
yeah.
That's so hard.
I thought it was very good.
Yeah, but the major role. Do you remember that woman who ran away from a marriage? Yeah, that wanted to in the first book, Zaya.
Yes. There was a whole conversation in the chat about Zaya earlier.
Yeah.
Zaya wanted to join the army, but they would not let her because she's a woman. Zaya wanted to go hunting.
Yeah.
She wanted to be
and they
with
wouldn't let her.
Yeah.
But no one would let her. And Kusi is her direct descendant because her father is a descendant of that child that Bale had with Zaya.
Yeah.
And I just had to take Zaya to war. She had, so that is Zaya coming back.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
She just had, because, she just wanted all of that. And I thought I would do that for her. A lot of people imagine that Kusi is the general that is killed by the Kabaka. But in my mind, I was more thinking about her great grandmother who ran away from a marriage. I just loved writing that girl.
Yeah.
She was great. And she has a short appearance in the novel, just like Zaya has a short appearance in the novel, but their importance to the storyline, the birth of, because the people that we're looking at in the story are descendants of Bale.
Yeah.
Bale, yeah.
Are his descendants from Zaya, and then Kusi is part of the retribution for the family in avenging Kamu's death. And Kamu's death is what sparks the spirit of Kintu to say, we're done with this curse. I'm going to go speak to an elder and we're going to get this done. Because without that, Isaac going through that doggone windshield and his son would have been done.
Done.
Like the fact that happened immediately after the reunion and they both survived blows to the head, that's letting us know the curse is broke. This book is so good.
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the ending is great. I love the thing I liked about it was the last line of the book.
Yes.
It says everything.
Yeah.
Everything is in the last line. Read the last line, Michael.
It says, "For knowing and refusing to know," her aunt says confidently.
That right there.
Absolutely.
That right there is everything to me.
That line is why people insist. Now, Tatiana, I entirely agree with you. I've been telling the world that this is a masculine novel. But people will say, no, especially men in Africa, it's a feminist novel because of that line.
Yeah.
That Miss might have had all the education and he might have been the chosen one. He might have been everything. But it's the women, especially the non-educated sister, who was able to point out that, you know what, for all his knowledge, he knows and he doesn't know. Because he has ways of knowing.
Yeah.
So smart, he don't know. He's stupid.
Yep. That's it.
Oh my gosh.
That's it. Because when I was reading, I kept saying, "Oh my God, there's only 10 more pages left. How is this going to end? How is this going to end?" I was like, "Oh no, please make the ending okay," because you just never know. When we read books, we're enamored with the book, and then we get all the way to the end. We're like, "Oh, what was that?" No, this one, it was like the floodgates opened, and I was just like, "Oh, yeah!" I just thought it was the perfect ending.
Thank you very much. It's very funny, Kintu, because it was published in Africa first, and it was rejected by everybody. So Africans were reviewing. It's incredible. Africans were reviewing it and talking to people about it, and finally in 2017, it comes out in the US after 3 years. And even then, it was published by a very tiny publisher who was starting out and took risk on it. And this is why a lot of Americans don't even know about it.
Well, they're going to know now because I done blasted this thing all over.
Now.
Yeah.
They know now because
and
lots of people read the book this month. Lots of
freaking promo stuff.
And my third book, my second novel, is coming out in America, and it's being promoted as if it's my first book.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because, okay, well, no worries. We got you on that because we're gonna make sure that it's known.
You got you, yeah.
Start here. Like read the second novel, but start your butt here because this is magic. Like this.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. When a novel is rejected and rejected and rejected, and even if it's just one person like this who comes and says, Jennifer, this is fantastic. You're like, yes, I'm going to go back and do that. One person has given me permission. And so to hear you.
And there are people in the chat. Someone in the chat shared that this novel changed their life. So it's like there is space for this work. And I wish that more people, I'm so glad that you took the risk and the time to put this out here in spite of the rejections and in spite of all the no's and in spite of your own fear, because there is a space for it. I want more of us who are African American, but our family, our sisters who live in Africa, who are brilliant writers, to understand there is space for you, period.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that, because this is our conversation, This is our conversation. This is us talking to ourselves. I'm not talking to the world. I'm talking to ourselves that this is where we come from. This is what we've done. This is how we think, that we have other ways of knowing. There's the way the Western world is always telling us that all knowledge is cerebral. But hell no.
It's not.
It's not. There's
not.
more to it, and we need to put it out there and just say, okay, reject it. You know.
Yeah. But I think when I saw.
Go on.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I was just going to say, I thought you had. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I read African American books, and they make so much sense to me. The way Franz Kafka may not, the way Russian books may not, the way some, but I read Toni Morrison, and I get that language, and by then I had never stepped in the US, and she made perfect sense to me. There is something.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think though, when I saw that you had done an interview and you had said that you wrote Kintu for Africans, for Ugandans, you did not want to have the colonizer as sort of like the beginnings of the story, like we often see in stories.
Yes.
And when I saw that, I immediately reacted to it like, oh my God, this is like Toni Morrison talking about the white gaze on books by about African Americans. It's a similar kind of idea.
Yes.
And so that immediately stuck in my mind when I was reading it, and I appreciated it because you took me through Uganda, through some of the historical points, ups and downs of the country, while I'm learning about the lineage of Kintu. And fantastic, because I wasn't polluted. Polluted. I was reading. I was capturing and understanding, and it was fabulous. And I can't understand anyone not being able to read this and understand it and even relate to it, because the themes, as they are Ugandan, I feel like themes are universal.
Yes, are universal. Yes,
to a certain extent.
And even if you read it and don't understand it, read it anyway and be confused.
I really appreciate it.
Read it anyway.
Exactly. Well, there's nothing wrong with being confused. You can read it a second time and be less confused. You know, I mean.
Oh my God.
Indeed.
You know, rereading is a thing.
Yes, it is.
It is. You know, I have this belief.
Any other questions?
I think there's a delay for Didi. Go ahead, Jennifer. It's okay.
Okay. There's one thing that perhaps I should make clear about publishing. So, in the beginning, when Africans started writing in English, that was early in the 20s and the 30s. There were no African readers who read in English.
Okay.
So, and also there was this sense of writing back to the empire that, you know what, you come and teach us this Christianity about, not oppressing others, but this is exactly what you're doing to us. So they were writing to the empire, and the empire was publishing, the empire was editing, and the empire was consuming. And so writing tended to look to Europe. But then, even after time when there were enough African readers, we carried on writing like that, because Heinemann and all these other publishers were marketing our books for their readers, and they were editing them, and the whole thing was towards white readers. So I think African writing developed like that. For me, it's until I started to read on receptions, and I thought, you know what? These people never explained Shakespeare to me. They, no one explained the Brontes or whoever. And I read it. No one up to now writes in such a way that Africans should understand them. Why do we keep on doing this for them? Why do we keep on spoiling them?
Yes.
And, of course, I paid the price that, they rejected the book. But there's a principle that, you know what, you are an outsider. This is our conversation.
Mhm.
And the minute I did that, I realized what happened to a book. I started to talk about things that I would not normally talk about when I'm writing a book to the West. Okay, so for example, that opening that opens with the death. Okay, I knew that people in the West would open, oh my God, violence, violence. And I said, go to hell. You know what? Go to hell. Here's the thing. Now I'm going native with you guys. So here's the thing. Dan Brown writes a book, Da Vinci Code, opens with a man murdering people. That's not violence.
And it's a freaking bestseller.
Yeah, exactly.
An African uses a machete. And oh my God, this is violence is so racially presented.
Yes.
Okay? You can have a white person killing thousands of people with an atomic bomb in the beginning, and no one would bat an eyelid. An African, use a person there, or Africans are violent. It's like, you know, Africans have never dropped bombs, atomic bombs on people, but we are the violent ones.
Exactly.
So it's so hypocritical. It's that hypocrisy that drives me crazy. I'm telling you, if a white person opens a book where a 14-year-old boy has a gun and goes to school and pops the teacher first, pops the guy who bullied him, pops and kills 30 people, no one would bat an eyelid. An African, you do it, and oh my God, the violence, I can't take it. No, no, you can take it, actually, because you have some of the most violent country. And it drives me crazy. But we fail to see how violence has been racially presented.
Yes.
And so
I don't think it's that we fail to see it. I think it's a choice to ignore it, because it's fine when they are violent to take over and to colonialize the space. It's fine. But when the people rise up, it's a problem. That's when it's a problem. That's when they're savages. They in their own space, bro.
It's ridiculous how white violence seems not to be violence.
What we're learning is that in the publishing world, the benchmark is always on the white person. The benchmark for everything.
Yes. And for me,
and that's what's killing it.
And you know what that does? It makes us all see the world from their perspective.
Yes.
And that is not good for the world.
No, it's not.
Now,
there's nothing to a woman that.
The way to be a woman is they've decided that. The way how to fall in love, they've decided that. The way to be a child, they've decided that. There are so many ways of being, you know, but they've decided if we don't come up to our mark, and so we are twisting ourselves in all sorts of shapes to be like them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
We're correct about that. And that's why people need to read this book.
Yes.
And that's why this book has been all over Instagram the entire month of July.
Yes.
Everybody has seen this book all the month of July in every shape and form.
And like multiple editions, because I actually want I have this edition, but I want the edition Dee Dee has. So I'm about to be getting another one.
The African.
Ooh, yeah, that was a nice one too.
Yeah, that's in the first edition. It's the African one.
Nice as well.
Oh my gosh.
That's
That's beautiful.
So we will make sure that everybody knows this is your first book.
Yes.
Oh, thank
The
you.
first book.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh,
Make sure of that. Because I find that abominable that they would do something like that. I mean, I don't see the point in hiding a first book. What's that all about? It's weird.
They want to make the first book what they want to be the first book.
Yeah, well, no, that's not going to work.
That's
not going to work. It's not going to work. But it's been a pleasure having you here with us tonight.
Yes, thank you.
You're totally okay
Thank you.
with having a discussion with you about Kintu. Awesome.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And thank God for the platforms, because then you can have an intimate discussion with readers. You know, what are the chances that I would have met you at all?
Yes.
I know.
Thank you. I'm just like, authors are my celebrities because I love to read. I don't write, and I think the act of writing is a magical form. So I'm totally geeked. This has been amazing.
I'm totally geeked because I want to write as good as you. I want to write as good as you. I've got a long way to go, Jennifer.
Thank you. And if you ever get to read the second novel and you like it, let me know. And we will talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That would be great. That would be fantastic.
The feminist. This one is the feminist one.
Okay. All right now.
Everything I had in this one.
Oh my God.
I'm so excited. I hope you find yourselves there. I hope you find someone you know there. I hope you find a grandmother you know there. Because, that is all I can say.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.